You don't have to read anything that anyone tells you that you have to read. Any of the authors that come on our shows, you don't need to read any of that stuff. Read a Substack article that you love. Just read it that interests you. So many people are prepared to give up at doing a thing because they haven't had immediate rewards. A lot of the things that people think that they want, fame, money, recognition, adoration by the crowd, like, where's that coming from? Why do you want that? Well, it's because I don't feel like I'm worthy.
What do you want to want?
You can do probably 90 or 80% of the big movers in 45 minutes a day if you just get up a bit earlier. Like, sure, is the person that's a single mother working a job for kids and all the rest of it, like, that's a very extreme circumstance. Something tells me that the people that are listening to this podcast probably have 45 minutes a day if they stop scrolling on their phone a little bit more. So the best way, like, I can throw pithy aphorisms at you all day, but tactically, how I would do it: wake up 45 minutes before you need to leave the house, or 45 minutes before you need to start getting ready to leave the house. 10-minute walk, get back, journal. If you want to, breath work using State app or any other type, Wim Hof. Meditate, waking up with Sam Harris, Headspace, Calm, you pick your modality of choice, and journaling, 5-minute journal, 6-minute diary, something like that. And then if you have time at the end, a little bit of reading on a Kindle, 5 minutes, 10 minutes of reading on a Kindle. And I think that, at least for me, I understand that for a lot of people that might sound totally unrealistic. 45 minutes on a morning, God, what a bourgeois, luxurious way to start your day. I need to get up and get the kids ready. I understand. If that's your situation, you need to find a different way to make it work. But that worked really well for me. And that was for, 4.5, 5 years. I really locked into that. And it was pretty powerful. It was the biggest period of change that I've gone through.
So if anyone's listening to that thinking, right, I want to do it, would you draw the direct line between the benefits that ensued from that in terms of addressing that sense of connectivity?
Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just connectivity. That, the social skills and stuff is more about practice. What this is forming a foundation, I think, of you understanding yourself. So Modern Wisdom, my podcast, was the tagline from the very beginning was understand yourself and the world around you, because I didn't have either of those. Understand yourself and the world around you. And I think that journaling, meditation, breath work, a little bit of reading of stuff that's cool and interests you. You don't have to read anything that anyone tells you that you have to read. Any of the authors that come on our shows, you don't need to read any of that stuff. Read a Substack article that you love. Just read shit that interests you. And the line between me doing that and me understanding myself better was like exponential. It wasn't even linear. It like got better over time, right, as I started to realize, there's a pattern that I've noticed. And then therapy layered on top of that foundation has just been like a supercharged catalyst.
So you said right at the beginning of the conversation that you have this sort of deep obsession with, what is success, what is mastery, how do we get to that point? So I'd love to find out from you what you think has put Modern Wisdom where it is today.
There's only like two things, I guess, that's made Modern Wisdom super successful. Curiosity and consistency.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just unbelievably curious about pretty much everything. And I'm prepared to embrace that.
I love that quote that you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. Mm-hmm. And given that you eventually achieved mastery, tell us about the early steps into podcasting then when you first did it.
People can go back and listen to episode 1 on it's still there on the YouTube channel. 6 years ago, me and my friend Stu Morton, that was going to row the Atlantic solo, 40 million oar strokes across the space of 3 months, Talisker Whiskey style race, which you guys are probably familiar with. And he was going to try and do it solo. And it's me in my old office in Newcastle. And I really enjoyed it. I did this long before anybody listened. And 85% of my audience came last year. And I've been doing it for 5 years at the start of last year. 85% of listeners found me last year. And the same will be true. Like, we did more subs and plays in the last 28 days than we did in the entire first 3.5 years.
Look, we all know the struggle of deciding what to eat. But what if I told you that Huel can make that decision easier? Their Taster Bundle has got 8 ready-to-drink bottles, including their Black Edition, which has got 35 grams of protein, 6 daily A to Z vitamins, 8 complete nutrition bars, 2 hot savoury pots, and a free Huel t-shirt. All you have to do is click the link in the description to unlock your offer now at huel.com/highperformance.
And this is kind of the beautiful thing for anyone that's trying to start a project, which is sort of an expression of their personal interest. You kind of can't get it wrong, as long as you're being true to yourself. Like, if right now you are obsessed about AI risk, guess what? Write about AI risk for 6 months. And then you can move on to something else. Like, that's not you being flaky to your audience. That's you being true to yourself. And I think that the only other thing is consistency. Like I say, 90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 3. And of the 10% that do, 90% of those don't make it past episode 20. So by making 21 podcasts, you're in the top percentile of all podcasters ever in history. That's how low the bar is. That's how low the bar is for consistency.
I've seen you say that before. The bar to greatness is set low in your opinion.
It's so low. It's so low. Like a gram of talent and a bit of consistency and a good work ethic will put you so much further ahead of everybody else. So many people are prepared to give up at doing a thing because they haven't had immediate rewards. So if you can find a thing which to you feels like play, but to everybody else looks like work, you will absolutely annihilate them. And it won't feel like you're using any willpower.
I wonder whether you had that sort of period of loneliness, if you like, where you're walking a path that no one else is walking, and it's easy at that point to stop.
In some ways, but a lot of the things that we are ashamed of about ourselves are the dark side of something light that we're the most proud of. So for instance, me growing up a little bit socially isolated, it sucked for, that boy. And I wish I could pick him up and tell him that it would be okay. But on the flip side, it meant that I didn't care about working in solitude for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, just seeing no reward, or moving out to a brand new country on my own where I knew no one to try and talk to people on the internet and make it a job. So that's a good exercise, I think, for people to do, to ask themselves, what about me that I think is a weakness could be a secret strength? And that's certainly one of them. To ask yourself the question, if I could step in and define my desires are the paths of least resistance, what would I want to want? Unbelievably difficult question. What do I want to want in my life? Phenomenally fundamental question. I want to be peaceful, to be a good friend to people, to go to sleep on a nighttime and my head hit the pillow and me feel fulfilled. A lot of the things that people think that they want, fame, money, recognition, adoration by the crowd, but where's that coming from? Why do you want that? Well, it's because I don't feel like I'm worthy.
What do you want to want?
To be able to follow my curiosity unencumbered from everything else. To just permanently be riding the crest of now and not be worried about how it's going to land, and create something beautiful. I think that's how you do create something beautiful.
So you want freedom?
Yeah. Freedom from other people's judgments, freedom from fear about myself, about not being good enough. But again, as you've said, and a lot of people listening will have that same sense that you did. If I let go of that fear, that sense of insufficiency, will I still have the edge? Maybe that's the thing that has caused me to be so successful. And it's my belief that that's not true. And it's also my belief that even if it is true in part, you can sacrifice a huge amount of fear for only a tiny amount of performance, enjoy it so much more. And again, what are we looking for? Do not sacrifice the thing you want, happiness for the thing which is supposed to get it, success. But yeah, with regards to asking yourself what you want to want, there's this great story from Seneca. He talks about a man who steps out of his house on a morning and you would ask him, where are you going? What are you doing? And he says, I don't know. I'm going to see some people, do some things. And he likens that man to a cork that's sort of been thrown into the ocean.
Yeah.
And this cork bobs around. And let's say that you threw it into the ocean for 10 years. It's bobbed around and it's been moved by the tides, and you could take it out and talk to it and say, what did you do? He said, well, I went to some places and I saw some people and I did some things. But that's very different to being a person in a boat that chooses to use the wind and actually go on an adventure. It moved places, but it didn't have an adventure. And my goal is to be the guy in the boat, not the cork in the ocean.